save the bees. But do we actually know what's hurting the bees and what the implications are? According to Dr. James Ellis of the University of Florida, in the 1940s, there were approximately 6 million bee colonies in the United States. I want you guys to give me a show of fingers of how many millions of bee colonies you guys think there are today. For those of you that said 2 or 3, that is the correct answer. There are now only 2.5 million bee colonies in the United States. But I get it. That's a long time. Like, things happen, things decline. So let's just take the year April 2015 to March 2016. In that single year, beekeepers lost 44% of their bee colonies. That's insane for 1 year. According to Lars Straub in his article in the Proceedings of Society Bee, published in 2016, bees are responsible for 75% of the pollination that is required for our fruits, nuts, and vegetables, and 1/3 of our food supply, and have a total economic worth of $15 billion. But what do bees actually do for us? Well, according to Miguel Altieri in his article published in 1999 in the Journal of Agriculture, Ecosystems, and the Environment, bees give us biodiversity by pollination because that's sexual reproduction of plants, and that is really important because if there are harsh conditions in the environment, then some of the plants will have random adaptations due to the sexual reproduction that will allow them to not completely die off, but if there's no genetic diversity, then if something hits and there's no adaptation, then all of the plants will die. But this actually goes both ways. According to Clara Nichols in her 2013 article in the journal Agronomy for Sustainable Development, bees actually benefit from the genetic diversity of the crops as well. So really this relationship goes both ways. So what's actually killing the bees? Well, there are bacteria, virus, and funguses, habitat loss, but most importantly, pesticides that contain neonicotinoids. So I'm sure you guys have heard of colony collapse disorder, which according to an article published in the journal Science in 2007, that is when all of the workers in the hive actually disappear, which it's like kind of inexplicable. But that only accounts for a fraction of colony loss. And so when we pass off bee decline on colony collapse disorder, it kind of gives us an excuse to not do anything because the actual cause of it is unknown. But there are actually many other causes. So according to an article, The Plight of Bees, published by the University of Minnesota in 2011, varroa mites are another reason why the bees are dying out. And varroa mites actually are parasites that suck the blood of the bees and in the process can transmit viruses, which decrease the immune system of the varroa mites and shortens their lifespan. But as per usual, the main reason why bees are dying is us. So according to Fred Pierce in his article published in 2015 in New Scientist, the neonicotinoids that are in pesticides actually act as contraceptives for male bees. Their sperm does not work, and so they cannot reproduce. And also it inhibits their ability to learn and navigate, so they can't get food and they can't get back to their colony, and then they die. But there are solutions, and I do recognize that there are some pests that require neonicotinoids, such as wireworms, but according to the Canadian agriculture news site, The Producer, 60 to 70% of the farms that use neonicotinoids actually don't have the pests that are required for them, and they actually don't benefit from using them at all. So it's kind of a waste of money and harms the bees in the process. So according to Lorenzo Furlan in his 2015 article in the journal Environmental Science and Pollution Research, there are some solutions, and these solutions actually go with the highest amount of economic flexibility to the lowest amount because not everyone has the same resources, and so it's hard to use alternative ways to not use neonicotinoids. So the best thing to do is actually just pest assessment to figure out what pests you have so that you're using the right things to get rid of them, and that would really lower that 60 to 70% statistic that I referred to earlier. Some other agronomic solutions would be crop rotation, and actually just planting strips of wildflowers within the crops will give the bees some habitat, because again, one of the major reasons why bees are dying out is because they just don't have any flowers or places to live. Another solution is to just use alternative pesticides, such as natural pesticides or ones that don't contain neonicotinoids. And also, if worse comes to worse, just use lower concentrations of those is still beneficial. For those of us that don't have farms, we can still do stuff to help the bees, and that includes planting bee-friendly flowers, which again helps their habitats. Buying local honey supports beekeepers, and seeing as they lost 44% of their bee colonies, it's really important to support them as well. And also just to advocate for the bees by educating yourselves on what's happening, and especially regarding policy on pesticides. So I think one of the biggest problems that we have when it comes to environmental issues is that it seems really far away from us. So here is an illustration of a delicious cheeseburger we all know and love. And this is what it looks like with bees. But what would be left without bees? Just the buns. And that, if you guys are confused because there's no meat in there and cows are not pollinated by bees, they are still fed on like feed that requires bees, such as alfalfa. So cows still need their bees. Here is another, this is in Whole Foods in 2013, this is their campaign. This is the dairy aisle with bees, and this is what would be left without bees. So, but again, these are just hypotheticals. The world still has bees, while not as much, but according to an article published in the Huffington Post in 2016 by Casey Williams, in rural China, there are no bees. And they actually have to pollinate pear trees by hand. And so this is an image of a man pollinating a pear tree using chicken feathers. So this is actually just not feasible in the greater scheme of things. Like, there are too many crops and too few people to do that. And so I really want to highlight that this is a vitally important thing for us, and that these little steps that I mentioned before can have an enormous impact on bees and their populations. And actually, I looked up this morning some legislation that was amended a couple days ago, and in California, they are limiting the amount of neonicotinoids that can be used, and hopefully that will get more strict in the future. And also, they are enforcing labeling of neonicotinoids, but again, if we voluntarily begin to reduce our use of pesticides, then we can create that movement ourselves, and legislation will again follow. Thank you.